Casemiro's time at Manchester United is coming to an end. And while Kobbie Mainoo is shining under Michael Carrick and cementing his place in the United midfield, he desperately needs a new partner to complement him. So we've run the data to find United's next perfect midfielder. From a Real Madrid star waiting to explode, to an absolute out-of-possession freak, to the ultimate Premier League dream signing. Who takes the crown? Let's dive into the numbers with data genius Spencer Mossman.
Yes, so we're going to be looking at the United midfield through a critical lens, not critical as in like a bad way, but just to evaluate where the strengths are, what kind of profile will need to be brought in, because of course, even if Casemiro doesn't leave, which he's going to, the team needs a midfielder to come in and honestly become a long-term partner with Kobbie Mainoo, which is the idea of how we built this search. The thing with Casemiro is I've always felt, even when the famous quote about how leave the football before the football leaves you came out, the numbers at no point ever dipped. He'd always been, is continuing to be a really high volume of passer. Wouldn't say so much metronomic, but the ability to keep the team on schedule and play long passes and do things that I call like the high degree of difficulty passes, like progressives and through balls and long passes. He's really good at that. And also his engine never wore out of possession. Maybe he lost a step, but he still makes up for it in just the effort level that he puts forth, which really complements somebody like Kobbie Mainoo. If you look at Mainoo is the part of the graph that's in white, and then Casemiro is the one that is in yellow. A lot of the things that Mainoo does well in terms of allowing freedom to get forward and to play creative passes, not so much the highest volume of passes and stuff. You don't really want him with like a lot of responsibility and build up to be the one that's controlling possession in that manner, but he's able to pick his spots and he's pretty accurate when he does. But like Kish mentioned, and like the graph says, his superpower is his dribbling and carrying ability. In space, he's really strong striding forward. In tight spaces, he's really difficult to dispossess. He's strong, he's clever, he's all these things. But then that leads to the downside being he's not the most aggressive out of possession, which is a bit interesting. It could be a style of play thing, it could be a tactical direction, but his athletic profile would indicate to me maybe that the numbers should be better. But also, you don't necessarily want to have a player like him be the one that you're relying on to be the one that is taking up a lot of the defensive responsibilities, which is why you want to find a player like Casemiro to be able to fill that in and allow him and Bruno Fernandes to effectively do their thing. So with that in mind, that's how we're going to be building our search, is to complement Mainoo and try and find a Casemiro type replacement.
Yeah, I just think in the modern day, like, to be a dual winning space covering player in the Premier League is such a high level, and I just don't think Mainoo necessarily has that elite physical profile to cover the ground as well as the best of the best. But I also think Mainoo, from what I know, doesn't always look amazing on data, but I think throughout his time in the Man United first team, I think he's just been someone who you have to watch him to really understand his value. And like I said, he is a player who I think you want to be able to give freedom to off the cuff and kind of let him feel the game and play off instinct. And I think Carrick has done a really good job at allowing Casemiro to do a lot of the more structured, dirty work, and Kobbie Mainoo to be really free.
Yeah, that's why we're building this around Mainoo and how to best platform him. In terms of the search criteria, or how we're going to look to identify the midfielders, the first two, forward pass attempts and progressive passes completed, that is just a standard who sees a lot of the ball, who's comfortable playing a lot of passes, who's comfortable being the one controlling possession for their teams. Duels won and defensive duel win rate, also pretty self-explanatory. Who wins the ball and who's really effective at doing so. Same with aerial duels and aerial duel success rate. You'll know if you follow along with this channel that that's something that's valuable, especially for players scaling to the Premier League. And then I gave, along with progressive passes completed, I gave interceptions the second joint highest weighting in the search. This being because it's the most broad encompassing of the out of possession statistics, because it requires a number of different things: anticipation, ability to replay, ability to like athletically be able to get into positions to cut out plays and to make an impact. So yeah, that's the reasoning, and these are the types of players that fit this criteria. that's who we're going to be looking for United to be signing.
Yeah, and I think just taking the in possession stuff, I think Casemiro especially is his passing has always gone under the radar about how good of a passer he can be. There's one type of pass that I really like that he does. He often receives it maybe off one of the fullbacks, and first time like round the corner, he can just play a really clean progressive pass through. He's a very intelligent player, and I think his in possession stuff is really underrated. And obviously, we know him for his defensive side of the game, but we've obviously also put the in possession stuff in because when you're playing for a top team, like Man United want to be, you're not going to get away with not being a good player in possession. So you need both sides, especially to pair with Kobbie Mainoo, who's more of a carrier and less of a defensive type player.
When I share this list, it's going to be 15 names. It's midfielders that are under the age of 24 last year or 25 this year, that had over 900 minutes, that then have the highest aggregated Z score. I guess the best weighted metrics for this. We're not going to cover all 15 names. We're just going to cover the 5 that stand out and make the most sense. Those names being Elliot Anderson, Eduardo Camavinga, Angelo Stiller, James Garner, and Amadou Onana. So you can see the players on this list. There are some that maybe wouldn't make the most sense, right? I rate Nicholas Seawold, but I don't think he's the type of player that Manchester United should be looking at, nor necessarily the caliber. Just because his data looks really good doesn't mean that you can't also apply other qualitative, applicable analysis to the way that you evaluate this. But yeah, the names for me here that stand out the most on the list, and I think would make the most sense and do a lot of things aside from just keeping the fans excited. And if you're a United supporter, if you sign some of these players, it makes a lot of sense. And I would be really excited if I was a United fan at any of these names. But specifically for me, and we can touch on the players more in detail, but I mean, it's got to be Elliot Anderson. I think every team in the Premier League should, at least with the money to be able to afford him, should be going after him and should be prioritizing him, even if you don't have the most immediate midfield need. But if you do, he's it's the Premier League now is a game in the midfield of generalists where generalists win. But he's a generalist and he's also really good at some things too. He kind of has the best of both worlds. He's has the superpower of being able to do a bit of everything, and also the superpower of being just covering about as much space as anybody in the Premier League, having one of the highest work rates, and then also having the progressive passing ability to make a legitimate impact for a high possession side.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much kind of comparison between Elliot Anderson and Adam Wharton, and I think they are very, very different players because I do think Wharton is more of a specialist, but Anderson is not far off him in terms of that specialist ability. I mean, his passing is very, very good, but Elliot Anderson's the kind of player that every Premier League club would dream about because he puts up a certain level every single game. His consistency to be able to do a bit of everything is just so key, especially like you said, in a Premier League where I think that's so important. You look at the impact that someone like Declan Rice has made at Arsenal, and I think this would be a very similar signing because it's someone that will turn up week in, week out. In terms of Camavinga, I've always loved Camavinga. I think his dueling ability is so clean. He's so balanced, but such like a strong core. I think his passing numbers as well could definitely improve the more he becomes a key figure of a team's kind of approach play, etc., etc. I think he's got a really clean left-footed passing technique. I think Camavinga is a player that still hasn't quite reached his potential, but I think it's kind of waiting to happen in my eyes. I think maybe it won't happen at Real Madrid. Still a very possession-heavy guy, and I think we'll come on to that more in the next slide. James Garner, like you've said, is a sort of Elliot Anderson light, someone who's United Academy as well, so there's that link there, but someone who's probably a cheaper option. And Amadou Onana, I mean, an out-of-possession freak. I mean, when you watch him, his build is something like from a different sport. Like, he is so tall but so quick. I think if he can stay injury free, he becomes maybe the best out of possession midfielder in the world, really and truly, or one of anyway. So yeah, that's my little summary on all of those guys. But let's move on to the slide.
Yeah, so the perfect summary, and it's gonna just dovetail right into what we're gonna show here. So this is not like the exact search criteria, but it's a good summary of what it is. On the x-axis here, progressive passes completed, on-ball responsibility. Here, interceptions, defensive duels, aerial duels, just the volume of out of possession actions. You can see, so these are all the midfielders that could have potentially been in the search for all ages. So 900 minutes over the past 2 years in top five leagues. You can see where Casemiro is. He's among the highest of anybody in Europe. The work that he does is, I think, honestly, it is underrated by everybody, including United fans, including general pundits. He is and has been a glue that keeps the team together. So a player that is able to shoulder that out of possession responsibility, I think, should be one of the most important search criteria. Then obviously you see Kobbie Mainoo down here. He doesn't look great in this graph, but that's the point. We're trying to find players that do the things that he doesn't do well so that it can complement him. If we made this graph like something about dribbles and successful dribbles versus like pass rate or forward pass success rate and penalty area passes and things like that, then obviously Manu would be up here. But that's not the point. In my eyes, like I said before, Elliot Anderson should be the clear number one choice. He's the player that provides the best of both worlds, not just like from this target list, but from pretty much any midfielder in the world. So yeah, I think he would be the one and should be the one for United to target. And yeah, it's really just as simple as that. He should be number one on everybody's list, including United's. If you want a player that is more in possession focused, is so you can see here these dotted lines. This one here being for out of possession, this is the average, and this being or for progressive passes. So the in possession average line is here. The out of possession one is here. You can see Angelo Stiller falls right on the line for average in terms of out of possession volume, but he's further to the right than most. And this is last year. This is this year's. He's technically would be better on the ball than Elliot Anderson in this regard. So maybe more down the Adam Wharton route, but still offers some out of possession ability. So that would be if on the ball in possession and they're trying to just build a 60% possession machine is the idea. Stiller would be my recommendation. Like you mentioned though, if and I guess I mentioned it too, out of possession being a big priority. Amadou Onana, he's probably one of the best destroyers in football, or at least he could be given his athletic profile. And same with Camavinga. I think Camavinga offers the highest ceiling, but also with Onana, you get somebody that's Premier League proven, and yeah, he's just shown an ability to do it in not so much last year, but 2 seasons ago at Everton, and now this season at Aston Villa. Done it at different levels, done it in different systems. He's definitely an option as well. And then in terms of James Garner, he's just Elliot Anderson light. That's the polite way to put it. A generalist, a bit older, is United Academy, so there is that link there. He would not cost as much. So if the organization looks at it and says we need to prioritize and put money into other positions, but we still need to find a midfielder, like a young midfielder, someone that can work in this sense. Garner would be an option for that because he would not cost as much as the other players on the list, but he would deliver 80 to 90, maybe 80% of the stuff that Elliot Anderson does. So yeah, if you need to go, if you need the best one, go Elliot Anderson. If you need to find the budget option, then James Garner's a good one.
Yeah, and I think an Angelo Stiller and Mainoo midfield would probably worry me in the setting that the Premier League is in right now. But obviously, Elliot Anderson makes the most sense in terms of bringing everything that a midfield of Kobbie Mainoo plus one is lacking. And it's just the type of signing that I think Man United are moving towards at the moment, with the likes of Brian Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha. It's these Premier League players of slightly lower clubs that are ready to immediately come in, make the step up. It's something that Alex Ferguson was so successful with for so many years, of signing the best Premier League players. And I do think it's a very good strategy at the moment where the Premier League is such a physical jump from most leagues in the world, that you sign people who are already proving it in the league. So I think that is a no-brainer, but they won't be the only suitors. So we'll see how that unfolds. Everybody, thanks for watching. Please do make sure you subscribe. Let us know which club you want us to find a target for next, because we will do more of these for sure. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time.